Welcome to Green and Gold FC. We are here to discuss the World Cup groups, and I'm joined by Michael Talks Football, who has a YouTube channel and a podcast which reaches, I believe, a few 100,000 people. And we have Ahmed, our usual one of our usual co-hosts from Green and Gold FC. Let's start with Ahmed. How are you going, Ahmed?
Yeah, pretty good yourself. It's
Yeah, pretty good. I'm pretty happy that we got the point in West against Western Sydney Wanderers. But yeah, excited to talk football here. And how you going, Michael?
good. Excited. It's going to be the craziest World Cup ever. Probably off the field and on the field at this point in time, but very excited for the World Cup as always.
So let's first talk about our group. So I think probably a consequence of having 48 teams in the World Cup that there were no like crazy groups of death like we got in 2014. We got Spain and Netherlands. But we kind of had like a bit of a everyone getting insulted that everyone was like, "Oh, phew," sort of as our reaction. What do you think? So we got Paraguay, USA, Australia, and probably Turkey, but hopefully someone easier. What was USA's reaction basically to that group?
Well, I think from the general public in the United States that don't really follow international football, they all said, we love it and it's easy. Obviously, me following Paraguay and following obviously Australia and whether it's going to be Turkey, I don't think this is actually an easy group for the United States. I actually, when I saw the draw and I saw all those teams, I think everybody was actually happy. I think Australians are happy because they're like, finally, we don't have a difficult group at a World Cup because you guys had it in 2018, 2014, 2010, 2006, 2022. And Paraguay, they're like, this is our first World Cup since 2010. Perfect. And then if Turkey, who haven't, all of those teams in the UEFA playoff C, none of them have played at the World Cup since 2010. Slovakia 2010, Kosovo would be a debutant. Obviously, then Turkey and then Romania. So I think all of the teams are actually thrilled about this group. That's why, for me, other than probably Group A, this is the group of life. Any of these teams can finish first. Any of these teams can finish last. And from my point of view as a USMNT fan, I would expect the team, though, to finish first or second. I think it would be devastating if they finished third or fourth. Just based on the quality of the team, you're hosting the tournament at home. You have all the elements for you. If this group was in South Africa or if this group was in Australia, I would be a little bit more worried for the United States. I'm overall happy, but I know, and I'm never going to disrespect the Aussies or disrespect the Paraguayans because they can beat us on any day. And everybody's now alluding to the two friendly games we had against Paraguay and Australia and said, oh, we beat them. Okay. World Cup is a different story. There's the pressure of the World Cup. Some of the players have gone the taste of it before, and some of them haven't. So it's really just going to be down to what team shows up on the day. And for the USMNT, while they're in a good run right now, who knows what the pressure will feel like when they play that opening game. Was June 14th or June 13th against Paraguay. It's going to be monumental. So I don't know how you guys feel as Aussies. I think you guys should be happy as well.
Yeah, I was thrilled with no disrespect because I thought you look at the game against Brazil, the game against Germany, and think we're not going to win. Let's be honest. Let's just protect our goal difference. And that puts a lot of pressure on the other two games that you have to usually get about 4 points in order to get through. And 4 points wasn't even enough because their goal difference was wrecked in 2010. But I look at USA and I think, well, if we lose, we probably don't lose by 4, with all respect. Maybe we do. There's always a chance. But if there's also a chance to get points there, whether it's 1 point or 3 points. Obviously, it's a host. It's a very tough team. And then I think this means if we need to get 4 points in this group, or possibly even more, then there's ultimately 3 bites of the cherry, where usually we only have 2 realistic chances to get those points. Yeah, so I don't know. How did you react, Ahmed? Obviously, we're not expecting to just walk this group and get 9 points. We're not expecting to. We're hoping not to get completely rolled either. But were you reasonably happy with this, Ahmed?
Yeah, I was quite happy with the group. And I don't know if we're watching the same clips, Michael, but I thought like I saw a lot of clips from uh, what I would assume is your US analysts and experts going, oh, we're going to walk this group. This is the best group ever. We smashed the Aussies in a friendly. And Paraguay, what do Paraguay have? And what do, even if it's Turkey, like, sure, okay, Turkey might, but we can beat them. Like, we're so good. Um, and if there's one thing that Aussies love, it's being undermined or being like written off. Like we love being written off because that just means we have a reason to fight. Like Uruguay did this in 2005 when Recoba was like, we have a divine right to be at the World Cup. And the Aussies were like, oh, sure, we'll show you. And like every World Cup since, I think, like since we've qualified in 2006, I think there's been moments where pundits have gone, nah, Australia, easy beats, written off. But then in every World Cup, yeah, sure, we didn't get out of the group stage in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. But we showed up against Serbia and beat Serbia. And Serbia were not an easy beat team. Last World Cup, showing up against in our group, beating Denmark, getting to the next round. I think there were times in that game against Argentina where we gave them a scare as well. So um, yeah, we are very happy with the group in the sense we don't have like a major big team. We've had Brazil in the past. Um, we've had France, so we're not too scared of that. And we know that friendly against us, the US as well. When we look back at the teams, a lot of the players that were in there were players that probably wouldn't start in a World Cup game.
So, if we're talking about the dream European nation to join, if you say, I don't want to give them motivation. I guess we talk about pundits giving our teams motivation. So, wording it as diplomatically as we can, hoping this clip doesn't go viral. Who would be the dream team to have as a fourth team to have join us?
Oh, probably Romania, because I just don't think they're the greatest of sides. And that's no disrespect, but I just don't think they have been good since they beat Ukraine in the Euros. So they would probably be the ultimate. If Turkey get into this group, oh no, then it's just carnage. It's going to be a war every single game if we get Turkey because they got the talent and they probably have the biggest motivation out of any side. And the Turkish fan base, I would say they are delusional, but they have a little bit of a right to be right now. They just made the quarterfinals of the last Euros. They have Guler, Yildiz, and a lot of good young players. So it'd probably be like Romania would be the easiest, then Slovakia, then I would probably put Kosovo, and Turkey is like the last team we want in this group stage at all. At all costs, just avoid them. Hopefully they fumble it because that's Turkey. Sometimes maybe they're good, and sometimes they completely just wet the bed and lose 6-0 to Spain at home. But I want to allude back to what Ahmed said about, American pundits. Look, those guys are delusional. The Landon Donovans, all those guys, they're delusional because they don't really follow international football. They obviously just watch the USMNT and they just probably think to themselves, we just beat the Aussies. I saw that Aussie team. That wasn't the Aussie number one team. And I would also say that, a lot of the US players were also missing. So Americans then could also say, a lot of the American players were missing in that game as well. So when we get to the World Cup, then it's going to be the best of the best against each other. And we'll definitely see who's the number one team.
Yeah, 100%. I think I was going to go the other way. I was thinking Kosovo would be the easiest team, and not because I think they're a bad team, but I think making your debut at a World Cup can be quite overroaring. Like the emotion can be quite big, and so you kind of get onto the field, that emotion overtakes you, and then you just lose all sense of like, forget tactics, everything's out the window, and you just crumble. I feel like Romania, Slovakia, they probably feel like they've been there, they've done this, they know what they're doing. If they get back there, it's like, oh, we've earned our right again. We're back where we belong. Now let's show you what we're actually capable of. So I would go Kosovo is probably the easiest one. And I agree with you with what you're saying about the pundits as well. Like I'm watching Landon Donovan and I'm laughing away there. I'm watching the other pundits. I'm like laughing. I'm like, yeah, sure, I love this. Keep doing this because we want you to do this
We need a
because we
player to
know
do it,
for a fact.
like the
Yeah,
US captain or something like Recoba.
yeah, exactly. Like we know, come World Cup time, I know for a fact Popovich is sitting there going, right, this is what he's showing the players, or at some point there's these clips, and he's going to be like, this is what they think of you. And as Aussies, we've always been ones to be written off, undermined, and we've shown that we're capable. So this is your opportunity to shut them up on home soil.
It's actually kind of funny though because the Aussies and then Americans in football and then the Paraguayans, they all have been underdogs. So now who wants to be the big dog in this group? That's going to be the funny part about it.
Well, it's the onus is on the Americans, isn't it? They're at home. They've been talking the loudest, and they've got to be like, show up now.
Well, on that, actually, thinking about who's going to be the easiest of the four European nations, the way that Australia play, at least for us, since we do like to sit back, we like the other team to take the initiative under our current coach, not generally, that means that probably the most attacking team, the team playing with the highest line, the team that wants to press the most, the team that wants the majority of the ball is going to be the easiest team. So it could be a little bit of surprise that it could ironically be Romania be perhaps one of our hardest opponents, with Turkey being one of our easiest. So there is that unpredictable factor. Uh, so I want to talk about style, and I'm very interested in USA football and how similar it is to Australia, in the fact that it's kind of drowned out by the codes, right? We have AFL, we have rugby league, we have cricket. You guys have NFL, basketball, baseball, and so you're always gasping for air, as a football fan, and that could kind of like put almost pressure on the national team, right, to not just represent their country, but to represent the code. And so when the national team isn't playing an entertaining style, like at the moment, we're very, very pragmatic. There's a lot of pressure to entertain, because you feel like, well, how are we going to get converts? This is a main way to bring people into the game. Is there a similar dynamic in the USA?
Yeah, I would say that we're probably the fifth most popular sport and league, because you got the NHL, you got the NFL, you got the NBA, you got the MLB. So U.S. soccer will always be fighting a battle to try and get the popularity. That's why when it's every 4 years and everybody tries to act like they know the sport, then everybody's like, oh my God, this team should be making to the quarterfinal, semifinal. Look where they're playing. They're playing in AC Milan. They're playing in Inter or Juventus, or they're playing in the Premier League. You're like, oh my God, they should do well. But there's so many factors that go into football that normal Americans don't really understand. And then when it comes to the World Cup and everybody looks at a group, or they say, who are Iran in football? Who are Wales? Who are these sort of national teams? And I think it just adds so much pressure to players like Pulisic, to Weston McKennie. And even as me as a fan, I'm like, you guys just don't understand. You really don't. So that when we got to that 2014 World Cup, for example, where we had Germany, we had Portugal, and we had Ghana, I think that was actually the most perfect group possible for the United States. The United States in football, they love to be the underdogs. We know we're not the best in the sport. If it's basketball, or, if it's baseball, then the Americans can have a little bit more arrogance about them and saying, okay, we should be going far in the tournament, we should be winning. I actually prefer to be the underdogs. I just think it just suits American football the most. But when it comes then to the pressure of all the media, and especially now with hosting it, because obviously I wasn't alive for 1994, and for the American football at the time, it wasn't to what it is right now with expectations and players playing around Europe. I'm more fascinated to see what the mentality of the players will be. And I think for fans, they're expecting something. Me, as just a, not a delusional fan, I would be happy with round of 16. I think that would be a really good achievement for the team. If they make it to a quarterfinal, that will be one of the greatest achievements ever. And hopefully, because the sport is so undermined in American media, probably it's the same thing in Australian media, where you don't get great publicity. Maybe it's just negativity, where I think it was the A-League final, or was it one of the games where it was the Melbourne Derby, where there was the crowd disturbance? That was the more talking point. They weren't talking about the good football from maybe other teams in the A-League. It's not really like that in the United States, because there's not so much crowd trouble at the moment, but it's always just going to be about negativity. When we missed the World Cup in 2018, oh my, the amount of videos that ESPN, Fox Sports, they were all just spamming it. But we didn't get the great publicity in 2014, or we didn't get good publicity in 2022 when the team actually did pretty well. I'm just hoping and praying that this, if the team do well, this can be then a huge launching pad to having a prosperous future in football, and having more media, and having better facilities, and just having better opportunity for people in America, because really it's a rich kid sport in the United States. You're not going to see guys from just getting an opportunity, really. You have to go through academies, and the academies are very expensive to pay for.
Uh, I absolutely agree, and it sounds good that there's a lot. At least for now, there's a lot less divide around the US national team. But it does sound like you are ultimately representing your country, and you could put on that jersey. I want to ask Ahmed, given the dynamics in Australia, how much does style matter? Because we know that if we get through this group, that we're doing it through probably not the prettiest football, right?
Yeah.
Is it just results of
No, we're
else,
not.
or does style matter as well?
I think I think Australians style matters, because we grow up with sports like AFL, rugby league, where we see some like amazing players. I think this year the rugby league, especially when you look at the rugby league this year, for example, and how the Broncos won that championship, like they lost twice to Canberra, yet still won in that game. It was an insane game. The way they beat the Panthers, the way they then won the grand final as well. Like these are moments where people are like, holy shit, like what the hell? And so when they watch football and they see like a 0-0 game, it's like, oh, we're not getting that holy shit moment. So when you have style and substance, that can make up for something where it's like a 1-1 draw or a 0-0 moment, because then people still see like an end-to-end game where something like exciting stuff happens, where we hit the post or someone does some amazing tricks, or the passes like through balls are killer balls and things like that. But ultimately, for the World Cup, when you're at that point, it's all about winning games. Argentina didn't win that World Cup by playing the fanciest football in every single game. I mean, they lost to Saudi Arabia at one point in that World Cup. So they were not the fanciest, or you could say they were not the best team in every game, right? So at a World Cup, when you've got knockout games and it's just about getting to the next point, it's all about winning. And so it then comes down to, let's forego style and substance to get results.
So, as much as we may want a better style right now, I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. So we have to deal with what we have and talk about.
I mean, look at Ange, for example. Ange brought amazing style to Australian football, like with the Raw, with the victory, and then even with the national team, he won us a continental title, and still people were turning on him and were like, "Nah, we want Graham Arnold in," and we went for the most dour football possible.
Was there a lot of criticism for you guys after 2022 World Cup? Because you look at the quality of the Australian team compared to 2015, 2014, 2010. I mean, the fact you guys got out of that group, you almost knocked out Argentina in the round of 16. I don't think any Australians could have really complained about the style of the team. Or was there a lot of criticism towards Graham Arnold?
No, I don't think no one was complaining. Everyone was like, holy, we beat Denmark. We made it to the round of 16. And then we came up against a Leo Messi Argentina. No one really expected us to beat Argentina. The whole story was all about Leo and Argentina. So no one expected us to win that game. So I think Australians were like, yeah, fair enough. The problem for Australia was that in 2006, we had our zenith in World Cup football. That match against Japan. Firstly, you have the match against Uruguay where there's this build-up of euphoria, and we get to Germany and we're like, yeah, let's see what Goose and the Aussies are going to do. And then we have that opening game against Japan, and it's like, holy crap, like this is insane. Let's see what we do against Brazil. We held our own against Brazil. We lost, but we held our own. Then that game against Croatia, which was again just insane and wild. We then play Italy, held our own against Italy, and to this day, I still think he dies. Like, everyone's like, at that moment, everyone was like on board this football train. And then we look at our next World Cups after that, like 2010, it's just like Germany, Ghana, Serbia. It just kind of falls away. We leveled on points with Ghana and effectively got on goal difference. 2014, like Netherlands, Chile, Spain, like how do you get out of that group, to be honest? And then France, Denmark, Peru at 2018. 2022, we get France again. We get Tunisia, Denmark. So there's a period where we just kind of like at the bottom. We hit our nadir in World Cup football, and everyone's just kind of gone, yeah, we had our moment in 2006. That's it. We're done. Let's see what we can, whatever we get from now on till then, it's like a bonus.
Yeah, we haven't produced the same level of players, and that's been one of the big divides, because, of course, we revolutionized how we were doing club football around the time, and it hasn't so far produced players at the highest level. But yeah, as for me, what do I think of style? Yeah, you're right. Like when I watched the 2022, I think winning those two games was just as euphoric as the two games in 2006. And it felt just as good. It was brilliant. So at the time, the only thing I care about is results. But then fast forward, and I've rewatched the games where we play an exciting style, maybe 10, 20 times. Whereas I still haven't rewatched the Tunisia game, and I've rewatched the Denmark game once. I've even rewatched the game against the Netherlands in 2014 a few times, even though we lost that game. So I guess it depends. You prefer to win, and I'd like to win pretty. But and in the end, I like football to succeed in this country, and I think that's a big part of style. So, I guess what I was saying before is we aren't losing Popovich before the World Cup unless something dramatic happens, and so this is the way he's going to play. So, I guess we just have to deal with that, which is fine. So, let's talk about if we some of the change of tactics we've seen in the last few games by Popovich. So in the World Cup qualifiers, he had a very set tactic, a very set pattern in the game where we will sit deep and we will only start pressing if there's a pressing trigger or in the second half where we start to come out of our shell a little bit. So and so now there's been a slight change to that where now that we've compressed a little bit, so there's less gap between our front and back line. So we have like a mid block now rather than a partial press, and which means there's space in behind. And USA were able to exploit that. USA are very fast, and Turkey, if they play us, are very fast, and Paraguay are very fast. Is this suicidal, or is this a sensible game plan and we just haven't seen its fruition, or is Popovich just trying stuff? What were your takes? You said, Michael, that you saw all of our Asian games, and I don't know if you noticed this change in tactic that we have.
I haven't been able to watch any of the friendly games for Australia, but when watching the World Cup qualifying games, well, one, they were snooze fest almost every single game, especially the Japan home game. I'm like, there is no patterns of play. There's no new players. I'm still seeing Boyle up front. I'm like, this is just dreadful. Just change something. Now, you've integrated more the Ture and Irakunda, who are really fast, quick players, and I think that will suit you guys because I think the Socceroos, you guys are just going to be defensive team and just hit teams on the counterattack, which is going to suit you. Then you obviously have Boss on the left wing back position, who for me is an unbelievable player, by the way. I don't think he's the best defensively, but going forward, he's going to add a lot. So the Socceroos for this group, I think it suits you guys really well. Just be defensive against Paraguay, be defensive against the United States, be compact, and hit teams on the counterattack. I think that's the way forward for you. I don't think you can be a dominant possession team because while you have good midfielders like Jackson Irvine, I think the United States still have a better midfield and they have much better technical players like Tyler Adams, Weston McKinney, Tessman. There's so many good American midfielders. It's going to be fascinating to see what Popovich does, but I feel like he's been way too defensive. What, last 3 windows, I would say? And who's your goalkeeper? I honestly don't know who the starting goalkeeper for Australia will be at the World Cup. Do you guys have any clue? Because he keeps going with this guy, that guy. I'm like, you have to bring solidity into the defense where you guys are going to be a defensive team. You still need to build the chemistry. So maybe we'll see in the March window when you host the FIFA series.
Well, incredibly, we don't know whether Popovich is trying backup goalkeepers and saying, well, who's my number 2 and who's my number 3, or if he's not settled on his number 1 yet. And so that's probably true in about half a dozen outfield positions as well. We don't know whether he's experimenting because he's unhappy with his first choice or whether he's experimenting because he's unhappy with the backups. And he does prioritize fitness really, really highly because he apparently plays a really, really intense style, even though it's a defensive style. He likes to win games late. A lot of his games he wins late. And so he will rotate a lot. So he needs his second and third choice in every position to be really, really strong. So if we talk about the USA, so if USA are winning, what do you see as their strengths and why they've won? Or if USA are losing any of these 3 games, what do you think perceive as their weakness?
I think the biggest strength for us now is mentality, because that's what's been missing at the Copa America, where we got bounced out by Panama, just weak team. And that was pretty much because of Berhalter, who I just did not like him as the manager at all. And I don't know why he got the contract extension. Then we transitioned to the Nations League, where once again we lost to Panama. Then we lost to Canada. And then we got destroyed by Switzerland. We're getting destroyed by Turkey. I feel like the mentality of the team was at an all-time low. There was no connection with the fans. And it just seemed like there was no prosperous future with the side. because for Americans, and I think for the general public, they just want winners. It doesn't matter the style of play. You can look at the style of play from 2010 to 2002 to 2022. It wasn't like the gun ho pressing high up the field. That's not always going to be the USA. The USA just want to be a physical team, control the game, and get the goals either from set piece, which a lot of times we did against Uruguay. I think it was 3 goals from set pieces, which for me is the first time in a long time I've seen the USA be really dominant from set pieces. So we're very much speed, technical ability now with the guys like Pulisic to Dest and these sort of players. That's what we want to do. We want to hit teams on the counterattack very quickly. And now with Poch going to more of a 3-4-2-1, it's brought a much better balance to our side. When we were playing the back four, we were way too open defensively. We would get cut out in transition, be in one-on-one defensive situations. And to be honest, our defenders are still not good enough. We don't have good enough defenders to defend high up the field. So now that we've kind of transitioned to more of this 3-4-2-1, we brought in better balance, and now you're seeing with our 2 fullbacks, especially, hopefully it's going to be Anthony Robertson from Fulham, but he's dealing with an injury, and I don't know if he's going to make it because he's barely played any games for Fulham in a long time. And then we have Serginho Dest on the right wing-back position. I think that's going to be our biggest strength. Weakness is still mentality. I don't know what to expect at the World Cup. It's cool doing it friendlies. There was the same thing heading into the Copa America. It was the same thing heading into the Nations League. And what happened? We bounced out in the group stage, or we lost to Panama in the semifinals. So still, it's mentality for me. If this side can show it in March, for me especially, if they can beat a Belgium or Portugal, I think they're going to have huge confidence heading into the World Cup.
That's a very interesting take, because I remember watching the USA at the World Cup, at the Copa America, and there were attacking situations where the opposition had several players pounce on the ball and be within the picture frame, and no USA players there, and including some of the goals. So that would be, I'm hoping that's not fixed from a very selfish point of view, because that would be one thing which I'd be hoping that Popovic will never get effort errors wrong. And so fingers crossed that there's a little bit of weakness there from our perspective. But also I'm rooting for your code, because I want your football to be big everywhere. So what about you, Ahmed? If Socceroos do really well in this group, what's going right? How do we do it? And if Socceroos, if everything blows up and we do poorly, what went wrong?
I'm just going to quickly answer the goalkeeper question that Michael asked. Like, who do you think who's our number one goalkeeper? I think at this stage it's Matthew Ryan. The problem with that is it's been Matthew Ryan for so long. I don't think we actually looked at who was the successor to Matthew Ryan when the time comes. Because I remember at one point Ashley Maynard Brewer was considered the best up and coming goalkeeper potentially in England at the time. In the leagues in England at the time. And he's just then went on loan after loan after loan after loan, and is now back at Charlton, is 26 and hasn't progressed and hasn't received that call up. So we're at that point now where we go, well, Matthew Ryan's 30, what is he, 35, 33? I don't even know how old Matthew Ryan is. He's playing for so long, 33, I think.
Young by
and we go
standards, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, young by
He's only 33. Wow, it feels like he's been 20 years of playing football.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing. He's been playing for so long, and he's just been the number one for so long. We've kind of gone, Matthew's never injured. He's never a problem. Like, we don't have to worry about a backup. Let's just call in anyone to back him up in case. And we've never really found that option. So maybe that's what he's done. So I think that's what he's been doing. In saying that, I think he's probably going to lean towards more people like Patrick Beach, or one of the younger goalkeepers, because Andrew Redmayne was a hero last World Cup for qualification, but was already old enough to be like, he's not going to last till the next World Cup. So Joe Gauchi, I think, is someone they're putting a lot of faith in, particularly because he's playing in England at a high level. But I think it's the number one will be Matthew Ryan come World Cup time if he's fit. I think what's gone right would be structure, and that would be, we all think Popovic is going to go in playing that counter-attacking football. He's going to set up the team to be solid at the back, and then take the opportunities when they arise and counter-attack on the other teams. Potentially use that space, the pace that we have in those young players like your Toures and your Kundas, to break teams. So what would go right would be that structure. working, the players understanding that structure and being stringent in that structure. It's going to be difficult to watch, I think, but it's going to be effective because people are going to look at it and go, "Oh, well, we should be beating them." And then as teams get frustrated, that's when you start seeing those breakdowns in communications and those little like, what do we do? How do we break this down? Like coaches start to make decisions where they have to now either change tactic or change formation, which then can create space and create opportunities behind the defense for Australia to get their fast players onto the ball and break in behind, and little cutbacks or little one-on-ones and things like that.
And so what's gone wrong then if
What's gone wrong would be, I think, Popovich being too stuck in his way and not being willing to adjust in the moments, because there could very well be a moment where a team goes, we know Australia is going to be this rigid, structured formation. Let's try to hit them before they can get into that rhythm and break it up early. And if that happens, I can see Popovich kind of going, I don't know what plan B is at the moment, because I wanted to see what happens with plan A. And that was plan A. And we've been working on plan A so hard that we need to implement it. So I think what could potentially go wrong is the other thing that could potentially go wrong, not just for Australia, and what would be the thing that goes wrong and would be the thing that goes wrong for many teams, is between now and World Cup time, we lose one or two players to an injury that are key players, because Australia doesn't have a squad of 26 that we can look at and go, yeah, we're happy to throw on anyone. We've got a squad of 26 in which maybe I would say 5 or 6 are our truly best quality players. So if one of them was to break down, then that changes everything around formation structure and who starts alongside who.
I would agree with Ahmed on that point, actually. Sorry, I just wanted to say that I agree with the injuries because look at what just happened to Jordan yesterday. They lost their starting striker, Alan Naimat. He's out for the World Cup. He got an ACL tear. So these things can happen. If the USA, if God forbid, if Pulisic is out injured, I wouldn't have much faith then in the attack, because I know he can create that moment of magic that you're still going to need in the World Cup. You can have all the wonderful tactics, but if a team is well structured, like in Australia, you're going to need that moment of magic. That's what Messi has produced many times, Ronaldo, you name it, on and on and on. So yes, injuries will play a part. So it's very difficult to say, prediction wise, this team are going to win, because anything can happen ahead of this World Cup. For Paraguay, if Paraguay lose Julio Enciso, that's their team right there.
Yeah, and that's the thing with squads like our squads, like our teams. We're not European squads that have like 6 or 7 players of depth per position. We've got like positions where we have really solid players playing at the top who are like, you'd say, are world class or top players. But then the moment they go, the drop in like the levels that drops is quite significant. Whereas, France can probably call on like 10 players for each position and not necessarily drop in any standard whatsoever. So yeah, it's for a team for like the US, for Australia, Paraguay, like you say, I think a bunch of other teams in the World Cup as well, it's going to be down to those key players. And in games where it's knockout, you need those key moments.
As much as Popper has been working on our depth, if you think of the players which are playing at a superior level week in, week out when they're fit, as you say, there's Sutar, there's Sirkati, there's Burgess, there's Ryan, there's McGree, there's Boss, there's Irvine. And there's a big drop if we lose any of those players. If we have all those players on at the same time, then we could be dangerous. I'm going to answer my own question, what I think went right, what went wrong. So if something goes wrong, so I think the most likely way we get breaking down is if we leave a bit of space in behind. So that's what we'll be doing a bit later. So we'll be playing with the back three. When the back three moves up a bit, you need that back three to communicate, so that every now and then one of that back three will move into the midfield to clog it up a bit, put pressure on the ball. But because you are sacrificing space in behind, and USA are very fast, Paraguay are very fast, Turkey's very fast, so you don't want to do that. And the other thing which could go wrong is Toure is got some qualities which I think he could play possibly in the Big Five leagues sometime, but he is a player which, if his confidence is down, he can miss big chances. I've seen him do that for club. And so far, not for country. He's been on a pretty good patch, but let's see. And Iran Kunda is also a player which can get frustrated. A couple of, if he gets a unfair challenge and there's no foul given, could lose his cool. He could make some bad decisions. What's going to go right for us? I think ultimately we just have just impenetrable brick wall. Like we summon Popovic's magic from that Asian Champions League from 2015, where he manages to defend against teams which are much better on paper. And I think if he can get a roll on, we know that Popovic is a coach where he faced clubs which are worth 10 times what he has, playing a very defensive style. And if he does get a roll on, we could easily win our very first World Cup knockout in our entire history. So there's a big range of how things could go. Let's see. Be very, very interesting. I want to talk about some of the other groups. So I don't know how interested both of you are in the other groups. I personally follow all the Asian teams at the World Cup, and I believe, Ahmed, you follow your African teams. What about you, Michael? Are there any other groups or teams which you're interested in?
All of them. I'm like a cocaine addict for international football. So, and this is my favorite part of the journey. So, what group fascinates me the most? Honestly, I think it's group. Oh my God, there's so many groups. Group K? Yeah, Group K with Uzbekistan. Because I think you guys know as Aussies, Uzbekistan are no joke. And it's their first ever World Cup, and they get to play Colombia and Portugal. I mean, what a moment for the Uzbeks. I'm so happy for them, and I hope they really can, put their stamp onto international football. Because nobody knows. If you're not following Asian football, you're like, Uzbekistan qualify. These guys consistently win youth tournaments now in Asian football. They are now consistently producing ballers and hopefully getting them to play in Europe. I think this is going to be the starting point of Uzbekistan becoming, Australia or Iran of Asian football, where they're going to consistently qualify for the World Cup, consistently be in contention of winning the Asian Cup. I'm really, really excited for the Uzbeks. And overall, that group is super, super fascinating for me from an Asian football perspective.
So what about you, Ahmed? Any group which you've got your eye on?
There's a couple of groups. I think the Group K, like Michael's talking, Portugal, Uzbekistan, Colombia, and not just because those three are in there, because if you look at who's joining them, it's the Interconfederation Path 1. And I think that's going to be DR Congo, because what DR Congo have been doing over the last few years is reaching into their diaspora and going, who's got heritage, where are you from, and we want you to play for us. So if you look at their squad, a lot of their players are not players born in the Congo. It's players who are born in England, France, and have come through the systems of those countries and are playing at clubs in Bundesliga, Premier League, La Liga. So they're playing in the top leagues regularly as well. So they've got talent in their squad, and they've been building this team for the last few years. So they're not just pushing them together randomly and going, great, we've got all these players who have got heritage. Let's just put them into the team and see what happens. They've been building this up over a period of a few years. So they're bringing this team together and they know what they're doing. The other one that interests me is, I can't remember the group number, but it's got France, Senegal, Norway. I know we've been looking at I've been looking at Africa and watching some of the teams, not like Nigeria not qualifying and going, oh, well, what's happening there? Cameroon not qualifying, going, damn, some stuff's happening in Africa at the moment. But Senegal always turn up when they play France. Norway, Haaland in the front, like on his day, you just give him half a chance and he's taking it. So then that's all they need. Whoever comes through that interconfederation playoff, I think potentially Bolivia. Michael might know more about that one because Bolivia, Suriname is still got to play, and then the winner plays Iraq. One of the other,
if any of those teams qualify to that group, it's RIP settings.
Yeah, and 100% RIP settings. But I think the thing for me is this expansion of the World Cup. And I'll look at the groups and I go, there's no real group of death as such. Like wide open for anyone. There's no group I'm looking at going.
Do you guys like it to be expanded to 48 teams? I know we're kind of diverting away, but do you guys like it that it's expanded to 48 teams?
I tell you what, I would. Um, I would like I'd like go even further to 64 teams, but 2 World Cups of 32, like you have UEFA and
Wow.
Europa League. Because I remember this 32 years in the wilderness that Australia had, where if there's nothing to build up to at all, that could really you get this reinforcing vicious cycle, right? You're not good enough to make the World Cup. In our case, we had a very hard qualifying. And so that can depress football in the nation, which then, if football is depressed in the nation, then it's hard to improve. Of course, heroically, that generation, they did continue to improve and they did eventually make it, which was amazing. But giving that path somewhere. And you could have like the drama of a lot of the weaker teams make it. We saw just how much it meant to some of these new nations making it. But there is that trade-off where you are diluting. So you have some teams which I do worry about, like 6 or 7-0 wins at the World Cup, which does spoil basically. And that spoils all the other groups. Because it automatically, yeah, exactly. So you automatically end up with a team you're automatically third place just by everyone, no matter what happens, even if you're not good enough, because you beat that team which wasn't good enough to be there 7-0. So I think, making football more inclusive is a great idea, and giving teams that dream, that's something to look forward to, and some way to climb the ladder rather than just making this exclusive club. But I think like it should feel like a real achievement and real high jeopardy if you make that World Cup. So that would be my solution. Have two groups of 32. I don't know what you call this World Cup B. Like you can't call it Europa, obviously.
That you're giving Infantino ideas, because that man
Yeah,
probably
you're giving him too many bad ideas,
Yeah,
bro. He's
too
gonna
many
do it.
bad. That man has had bad ideas over the last few years. Let's not give him more. I look. I'm not a fan of expanding the World Cup because it's the pinnacle of international football, and I think it should mean something to like earn to be at that pinnacle. Like once we start going, oh, you came 10th in South American qualifiers. Here you go. You get to the World Cup. It's like I can lose. That means a team can lose as like, and how many? I think there's what
See what it
13
meant
teams
to
in South America.
Cape Verde, or what it's meaning so far to Iraq. Like it means a lot, right, to these second tier nations. I wouldn't want to take it away, but yeah, as you suggest, like it is hurting the this status of being the pinnacle of the World Cup.
No, I
48
agree.
for me is the
Yeah,
max.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's obviously nations who've qualified this year, and you can see what it means for them. And Cape Verde have not done it by like finishing 5th in their group or something. Like, I think in Africa, it's still a bit more competitive to qualify compared to South America, for example.
Or Europe.
Yeah, or even Europe. So once you start to dilute your pinnacle event, your pinnacle sport, you're definitely going to end up with moments where fans go, oh, this day, like now this thing is dragging on too long. There's too many games, and they lose interest. And then you take into account like the ticket prices, for example. How many people are paying that amount to turn up and watch? I don't know, like a Curacao play. I don't know who they're going to play or who's in their group, but like, how many people are turning up to spend that money, that hard-earned money, at a pinnacle event to watch two random teams that are not going to create much of a excitement? You probably barely know half the players as well. I'm not a fan of the expansion. I'll wait to see what this World Cup does and what it looks like, but I definitely wouldn't want to see it expanded beyond where it's at.
I think for like these groups, this is the best possible outcome of a 48 team World Cup when it comes to these groups, in my opinion. Unless Italy get into that group with France and Senegal, then that would have been good. But I don't think you're going to get any better than this. So that's why I'm a little bit fearing if this does go well, this 48 team World Cup, and Infantino looks at the 100-year anniversary, let's invite everybody, 64 teams. I'm like, no, that's not the idea. There still needs to be quality. There still needs to be trepidation in the qualifiers. I love World Cup qualifiers because there's so much drama when getting to that moment of qualifying. You saw it with Ireland and Scotland, for example. So, yeah, I think this is the best possible groups.
Yeah. Personally, I definitely fear losing that drama of World Cup qualification for Australia. We managed to get it this time because Graham Arnold's last gift to Australia football, after doing so much for it, managed to put us in a bit of a hole, losing to Bahrain, and we had to dramatically beat Japan in order to make it. So we managed this time, but maybe even as soon as next time, it becomes a bit of a snooze fest qualifying, which, yeah, I mean, I feel like you can solve both problems of World Cups are inclusive enough, and it needs to be exclusive by having basically 2 World Cups, for the top and for the second. But
I don't think the World Cup's not inclusive enough. I mean, the World Cup essentially is qualification as well. It's not just the 32 team tournament. It's the whole process, all 200 countries that are competing in that qualification process as well to get to the World Cup. Like it's the 32 team tournament is purely just the celebration at the end of everything that's come before it. Right. So when we say it's not inclusive, well, it is, because that's what the qualification process is. You're still technically part of the World Cup. You're in the qualifying process. You'll compete against some of the big teams. You might not have the biggest crowds because I guess when a Solomon Islands plays a Tonga, like how many people are you getting to watch that game, right? But the thing is, that's all part of the process. That's all part of the World Cup.
what happens if you're a team which is consistently not qualifying and it's hard to improve, right? You can get stuck. We got stuck there, right, for 32 years, where um, it just really was such a downer on the country for year after year after year, and probably scared off investment into the sport.
But I don't think it's scared of investment, because we saw the formation of the A League. Westfield came in. There was a lot of investment. Hyundai, a bunch of companies were willing to invest in the sport. But think about the moment when we did qualify in 2005. That euphoria, that like I can remember that day like it was yesterday, right? So that euphoria of qualifying after all that heartbreak, I think that's more like significant than going, oh, we're gonna finish 10th, but we'll qualify. So like, yeah,
Well, I mean, if you're
what's the point?
qualified for World
You
Cup,
kind of then lose that.
it's just
Yeah, but then you kind of lose all that.
Yeah.
You lose that interest in the qualifiers, and people will go, well, we know even if we finish lower down, like we will lose. I've just looked at the South American qualifiers one. Bolivia lost 10 games, and yet are still in the playoffs, so they still have a chance of qualifying. They lost more than 50% of their games that they played. And you kind of go, well, if that's the case, and I know that the only game that then matters is this playoff, I might just not watch half the qualifying games because it's
Well,
like
you could say the same thing for Sweden. Sweden didn't win any single World Cup qualifying game and are in the playoffs because of the Nations League.
Wow.
yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, if you
it goes from CONMEBOL then to UEFA, so it can go any way possible. Look, I don't like that CONMEBOL got more spots because I don't think Bolivia should be anywhere near the playoffs, but it is what it is. This is what happens when it expands to 48 teams.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a choice between, okay, my first choice would be the 2 tiers I mentioned, but if it's a choice between 48 or 64 teams all in the one World Cup, I want 32 teams because I do think you need that drama. It does need to be the pinnacle. That'd be my second choice, my second preference. Like I like the idea of like a Europa style tournament, but yeah, barring that, yeah, I'm already worried that, as you say, like you can lose everything. Yeah, but at the same time, like, did you see the reaction when Scotland made it? And I don't think they make a 32 team World Cup this year.
Neither do
Yeah.
Haiti. And look what it meant to Haiti.
Yeah.
So,
And
but then when they get to the World Cup Haiti, that's why I fear
Yeah.
for them. Because you still need to be competitive. Like we cannot have the same thing.
Yeah.
Like it's like if the Asian Cup expanded to 32 teams, what happens then if India consistently qualify? India are still not a good national team, and we saw that at the last Asian Cup. Maybe over time, while they consistently qualify over and over again, even though they didn't qualify for the next year's Asian Cup, it will help them. But if the Asian Cup expanded to 32 teams, you're diluting the quality so much.
for Australia, we need as many games as we can against basically your big five in Asia.
Asia.
Because ultimately, again, it comes back to, for us, we need the sport to sell in Australia. And so if we're beating Taiwan 10-0, with all respect to them, in the Asia Cup because we expanded it, then that really, really hurts our ability to use the Asian Cup in order to springboard interest in football in Australia. So, yeah, but that's a purely selfish perspective because, on the other hand, if you qualify for the Asian Cup, maybe that's the best thing your football nation has done and amazing for that country. So those are the two things you have to think about. It's not all about what's best for Australia.
I think if you want to expose teams to a higher level, because if you're saying like these teams never get to play against the big teams, but they'll get this opportunity at the World Cups, that's once every 4 years.
Mhm. Well, if it's
That's not
wants to
gonna
make it
that's not
once every
gonna
2 years, so let's hope he doesn't do that.
I feel like you have a direct line to Gianni, and I'm just not a fan of it at the moment. But like I think once you do that, it's once every 4 years. It's not going to help them develop because then there's still that 3 year period where they're not playing against big teams. What I would like to see done is take away meaningless friendlies where England play France for the 100th time, but like. Yeah, you got those international windows which keep breaking up your football, your club football. If you want to have friendlies, you make it such that these friendlies have some sort of substance to it where they're not always playing the same team or they've got to play a nation from a different confederation. That way, these teams are forced to look at like who they're playing and where they're playing. And if it's fine, like if England go like, oh, well, because you're forcing us to play Trinidad, Suriname, we're not going to send our big players. Great. They're still going to send a quality of player that's better than what Suriname have ever played. So they're still going to get that experience. That's what I want to see because I'm like as an English Premier League fan watching EPL, like waiting for the season to start. It starts and then 2 weeks later, international break.
Mhm.
Comes back for another 2 weeks, international break. Comes back for another 2 weeks, international break. It's like frustrating, especially when it's those friendly breaks.
Yeah.
Because what happens in those
But to be
friendlies?
fair, those have been happening for the entire 21st century. They've
Yeah.
always had international breaks, September, October, November. But they're going to change that next year. I think they're going to have it now that October and September combined with each other to have like a 3-week international break.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like it's been happening. I agree, it's been happening, but I think you've
It is
got to have
frustrating.
some substance to it. Like
Yeah.
I think fans are now starting to get to that point where they're gone, okay, well, why are you disrupting our club football? Like the dilution, because we have so much more football now, those international breaks have lost their substance. And it's just like, okay, I don't want to, let's create something. And that's why Europe created that Nations League, because they wanted to create some sort of meaning when they played each other.
Well, it's definitely working because Sweden are about to qualify for the World Cup and just win 2 games, or probably win 2 games in penalty shootout. So clearly it's working.
So, how much does World Cup experience matter? Because a lot of the times, I know when we made the World Cup for the first time in 2006, it was our strongest ever team, but we were missing a lot of open goals there. That was a howler in the back that we conceded to Japan. Times where I think Denmark don't make that often. I know they made it twice in a row against us, but despite being way better than us on paper, they got one draw and one loss against us. So we're facing Paraguay, which has not been there since 2010, but quite formidable. Possibly Turkey, which is again quite formidable on paper. But if you're playing outside of your continent, you have to deal with different styles of refereeing, different conditions, the emotion of the occasion. And we're going to see not just in our group, but across so many debutants. Like Scotland, you see them on paper. They got McTominay. They got so many players for top clubs. They should be quite a strong team. But historically, when there's a team which hasn't qualified for a while, they often struggle. So what do you think? Are we going to see a lot of these new countries which have good pedigree but don't qualify very often? Are they going to struggle?
I really don't know, to be honest, because I think the perfect example is Australia, what you guys did in 2006. Nobody had experienced the World Cup, and look what
Yeah.
you did. Incredible, incredible, incredible achievement. So I think it just depends on the mentality of the players. If you're just there to show up, you get your American visa stamp on your passport, you're here for 3 weeks, you want to go try Chick-fil-A, you want to try all the American food, and then you're going to play 3 games. If you have that mentality, you're going to lose the games. You're going to go straight back home. But if you want to actually showcase the football from your country, you can do well. And especially at this World Cup now that it's expanded, I can look at a team like Uzbekistan and say, why can't they make it to the round of 32? Why can't they win one game and actually expand their football more, expand the football horizon to Uzbekistan for a casual viewer? I do feel, though, you need some experience, but it's good that some of those teams have played in an Asian Cup or played in AFCON like a Cabo Verde beforehand. Because if they had not played any sort of Continental Cup football before, I would be very, very worried. And also depends on injuries. Like Jordan They're just missing out their starting striker. I mean, that's just devastating. I don't know how they're going to regroup after that. So, yeah, I do feel experience matters a little bit, but also it's the World Cup. It's your it's your moment to shine for a lot of these players that will never ever get this opportunity again.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't think experience matters a lot. You just have to look at the last World Cup. Germany getting knocked out at the group stage. I know it was a tough group. Like Japan, I know easy beats by all means. But when you think of World Cup history and World Cup pedigree, Germany is up there, right? Like they're one of the top nations. And then in that same World Cup, just look at Morocco getting to the third place playoff. They were in 2018 when they got knocked out in the group stage, and the last World Cup they competed in before that one was in France in '98. So they had this massive gap of 20 years before they qualified for the World Cup. Got to a World Cup in Russia, knocked out in the group stage. Everyone's like, that's what we expect from Morocco. 2022, all the way to the semifinals, third place playoff, and you're like, that's the best an African nation's ever done. Like it, I think knockout tournaments, yeah, there's an element of we've been there, we've done that, we know what we're doing. And you could probably call on players who've been there in the past and experienced those moments to help you. But again, it's all about just turning up on the day, turning up for your moments. Saudi Arabia shocking Argentina, like no one predicted that one. But again, it's just turning up. And like Michael says, mentality is a big thing. That Saudi Arabia win, I don't know if I'm sure both of you watched the Hervé Renard speech. Yeah. Like that clearly would have fired them up in some way. And that changes the whole moment. I would have loved to have seen what's happening in the Argentinian dressing room because I feel like they probably were like, no, we've got this. It's in the bag. Like we're good. Right.
Layup.
So, yeah. So I think history can help to a degree in terms of like if you bring the right people in who've experienced those situations and have been there before to help with that mental side of things. But on the day, like, yeah, World Cup history goes out the window.
I think for like Paraguay, for example, they have been at the World Cup since 2010. I don't think they care. Those guys are absolute warriors. They're such just a physical. They're literally Australia of CONMEBOL football, even though all the teams are physical. But they're literally Australia, defensive, gritty side, and they just have those moments of magic. So I think for them, none of those players have World Cup experience. Only the manager Gustavo Alvaro has experience from the last World Cup. I for them, it's like, okay, the players lack experience, but I don't think it will matter on the day because they're just warriors. Those players. It's all about mentality.
If World Cup experience mattered for something, then New Zealand should be winning since they've never lost.
Or Italy should easily qualify.
Yeah, and Italy should easily qualify, right? Like New Zealand's never lost a World Cup game. They're the undisputed World Cup champions, essentially.
That's an incredible record. Okay, final question, and then we'll wrap up. So, if there's a new World Cup winner, who is it? I'll go first. Colombia.
Oof, that's a good choice. I mean, for me, there's four. It's either Morocco, Japan, Senegal, or Colombia. And I love Senegal, so I go Senegal. I love those guys.
When you said new World Cup winner, you meant as in like someone who's never won it before, not opposed to, yeah. I do like Morocco. Yeah, man, it's a tough one. Yeah, I feel like I want to back my African nations and go, I think Morocco. The dark horse from Africa would be South Africa. But if we're going, I don't know, maybe I haven't watched Mexico a lot recently. Michael might know, but I feel like maybe that home support, that crowd might spur them on. Now he's shaking his head. And I'm going Morocco, South Africa. Let's go there.
They're terrible.
Opening game is 2010 all over again. I've already got Peter Drury's commentary in my head. That moment, yeah, that's redemption there. 26 years later.
So Mexico, Morocco, possibly Colombia, and maybe Japan, I believe, was all the ones. So let's see. So that's the dark horses. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me, Ahmed, as usual, and Michael Talks Football. Please check him out at Michael Talks Football. And don't forget to like and subscribe his channel as well as ours. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and of course, Twitter. And if you have any comments, please join us on the forum, greenandgoldfc.com. Until next time, that's all we have time for. It's bye for now.